Welcome back to Echoes of Ihsan.
Oh.
Where we
Yeah.
take those deep dives into Islamic history and teachings.
Yes.
And today,
Absolutely.
we're going to be going deep into Sahih Bukhari,
Okay.
specifically Book 58,
Sounds good.
Merits of the Helpers in Medina.
All right.
And we're talking about the Ansaar here.
Yes.
So
the Ansaar.
get ready
Yeah.
for some incredible stories.
I'm ready.
Because these aren't just historical accounts. They're
No.
glimpses into
Yeah.
the lives of these extraordinary people,
Yes.
their sacrifices,
That's
their
true.
unwavering faith.
Yeah.
We're talking about the early Muslim community,
The early Muslim community.
a time of intense challenges
Yes.
and just remarkable resilience.
Truly is.
So to kind of get us started,
Yeah.
what makes the Ansar so fascinating?
You know what makes them so fascinating is that their story starts even before Prophet Muhammad
Okay.
arrived in Medina. They weren't just,
Right.
waiting around for Islam to show up.
Right.
They were already
Yeah.
shaping the course of history in Medina.
Okay, so let's paint a picture for our listener.
Okay.
Who are these Ansar?
So the Ansar were the people of Medina.
Oh, come
And
on.
imagine this. You're fleeing persecution.
Okay.
You're leaving everything behind to seek a new life.
Right.
That's what the Muslims migrating from Mecca faced.
Mm-hmm.
And the Ansar, that we welcomed them with open arms.
Yeah.
They opened their homes and hearts. They shared everything.
Yeah.
Resources, protection, their very lives,
Right.
all to help build a new society,
Yeah.
founded on the principles of Islam.
Mm-hmm.
And their generosity and selflessness are truly inspiring.
It's almost like they were chosen for this task.
Well, there's a hadith that suggests exactly that.
Oh.
Hadith 120,
Okay.
narrated by Anas,
Mm-hmm.
a companion of the Prophet,
Right.
reveals something amazing. The name Ansar, which means helpers,
Right.
wasn't just a name they chose.
Right.
It was bestowed upon them
Oh, wow.
by Allah himself.
So they were literally...
It's like divine recognition
Yeah.
of their crucial role in supporting the early Muslim community.
Yeah.
Wow.
Incredible.
It is.
But
Yeah.
before we get too far ahead,
Okay.
let's go back to Medina before the Prophet arrived.
Okay.
I understand it wasn't exactly a peaceful utopia.
You're right.
Okay.
Medina had its own share of conflicts.
Right.
Hadith 121,
Okay.
narrated by Ayusha, sheds light on this period,
Okay.
describing the Battle of Guath.
Okay. Yeah.
So imagine two powerful tribes,
Okay.
the Auticus and the Khazraj,
Right.
locked in this bitter conflict.
Yeah.
It was a devastating battle
Wow.
that left both sides exhausted,
Yeah.
yearning for peace.
Okay.
And you know what? This very conflict,
Yeah.
as tragic as it was,
Mm.
might have unintentionally paved the way for Islam's acceptance in Medina.
How so?
Well, the battle had weakened both tribes,
Mm-hmm.
making them more receptive
Right.
to a new unifying force,
Yeah.
something that could bring peace and harmony.
Right.
It's as if Allah, in his wisdom, used this conflict to prepare the ground for something greater.
It makes you think about those times in our own lives when things seem to be falling apart.
Yeah.
Maybe, just maybe,
Yeah.
those difficult times are setting the stage
That's right.
for something amazing.
Yeah.
Something we can't even imagine yet.
That's right.
So we've got this backdrop of Medina,
Yeah.
primed for change.
Yeah.
The Prophet arrives,
Yes.
and the Ansar are there ready to help.
They're ready.
What were some of the ways they showed their support?
Well, their generosity went beyond words.
Okay.
They didn't just say, welcome, make yourselves at home.
Right.
They backed it up with actions.
Okay.
Take Hadiths 124 and 125, for example.
Okay.
They tell the story of Abdurrahman bin Auf.
A migrant from Mecca,
Okay.
and Saad bin Arabi, an Ansari who welcomed him.
Okay.
Picture this Saad with incredible generosity.
Yeah.
Offers to share half his wealth with Abdurrahman, a complete stranger.
Wow, that's just mind-blowing.
He even offers him one of his wives.
Oh, wow.
After a proper divorce, of course,
Oh.
to help him settle in.
I mean, to give away half your wealth to someone you've just met,
Yeah.
that speaks volumes about Saad's character and the spirit of the Ansar.
And Abdurrahman's response is equally amazing.
Okay.
He politely declines,
Oh, wow.
saying, "May Allah bless you and your family and your wealth."
Okay.
He was a hard worker
Okay.
and set out to establish himself through trade.
Mm-hmm.
And there's even this charming detail in these hadiths.
Okay.
The Prophet, known for his keen observation,
Yeah.
notices the scent of perfume on Abdurrahman's clothes
Okay.
and inquires about his marriage.
Oh, that's such a sweet detail.
Isn't it?
It shows the Prophet's genuine care for his companions.
how he took an interest in their personal lives.
Yeah.
But it also highlights the importance of marriage and family within Islam,
That's right.
even amidst the challenges
Yeah.
of building a new life in a new place.
Absolutely.
Now imagine your livelihood depends on something as precious as date palm trees.
Right. Right.
That was the reality for the Ansar.
It was.
But even then,
Yeah.
their generosity knew no bounds.
It didn't.
Hadith 126
Yes.
describes how they were willing to share these very trees.
The backbone of their economy.
But the migrants.
With the migrants.
This wasn't just about giving away dates. It was about sharing their lives.
No lives.
Merging their destinies.
Merging their destinies.
So they opened their homes.
Yes.
They offered to share their wealth.
Yes.
And they even offered to share their livelihoods.
They did.
Is there anything else? Did they like cook meals and do laundry too?
Well, we don't have the specific detail.
Okay.
But you get the idea.
Right.
The Ansar went above and beyond to make the migrants feel like part of the community.
Yeah.
And their actions didn't go unnoticed. The Prophet himself held them in the highest regard.
I can only imagine.
Yeah.
They basically saved the early Muslims.
They did play a crucial role.
Right.
And there are hadiths that make their importance very clear.
Okay.
Hadiths 127 and 128
Okay.
state something powerful.
All right.
Ready for this?
I'm ready.
Loving the Ansar
Okay.
is a sign of true belief,
Wow.
while hating them is a sign of hypocrisy.
So loving the Ansar is linked to your faith.
Yeah, they're setting a spiritual and moral standard for believers.
That's intense.
Yes,
It really shows how deeply the Prophet valued their sacrifices.
he did. And his affection wasn't just implied.
Yeah.
He expressed it openly
Right.
and repeatedly.
Yeah.
In Hadiths 129 and 130, he declares not once,
Okay.
but 3 times that the Ansar were among the most beloved people to him.
That's like a public declaration of love and appreciation.
It is.
And it probably did a lot to strengthen the bond between the migrants and the Ansar.
Absolutely.
Did the Prophet ever mention
He did.
specific families among the Ansar?
He did.
Like shout outs to the MVPs?
He did Hadiths 133, 134, and 135.
Okay.
Mentioned families like Banu an-Najjar and Banu Abbas al-Ashal
Okay.
as being among the best of the Ansar.
Wait, hold on. Did this lead to any,
Oh,
jealousy or drama?
you're right. Human nature being what it is.
Right.
In Hadith 135,
Yeah.
we see Sa'd bin Ubadah reacting to these specific mentions, feeling
Yeah.
a bit slighted that his own tribe wasn't
I
included.
guess even with a divinely ordained mission,
Right.
you can't escape the human drama.
Human emotions.
Right.
Like jealousy could surface.
So how did the Prophet handle this?
Well, his response to Sa'd bin Ubadah is really insightful.
Okay.
He reassures Sa'd bin, reminding him that being counted among the best of the Ansar is a tremendous honor.
Right.
He emphasizes that rankings and comparisons shouldn't overshadow the ultimate goal, seeking Allah's pleasure.
It's a great lesson for us,
Jeez.
to focus on the bigger picture
Yeah.
and not get caught up in petty comparisons.
Yeah.
But let's be real.
Okay.
The Ansar made incredible sacrifices.
did.
Did they ever get restless
Whoa.
or question their place?
As the Muslim community grew in strength and influence,
Mhm.
the Prophet foresaw some potential challenges.
Right.
He knew that after his death,
Yeah.
things might change.
Okay.
And the Ansar might feel overlooked.
Right.
So in Hadiths 136 and 137,
Okay.
he gives them some wise advice.
Okay.
He tells them to remain patient and steadfast in their faith,
Right.
even if they see others being given preference.
Yeah.
He reminds them that true reward lies not in worldly recognition,
Yeah.
but in the hereafter.
It's like he's preparing them for the long game.
Yes.
Saying, hey, things might get tough,
Mm-hmm.
but don't lose sight of the ultimate goal.
That's right.
And this message of patience was especially important.
It was.
Given the pledge
Yes.
the Ansar had made.
Yeah.
Hadiths 137 and 141 recount a powerful moment.
It is a powerful moment.
The Ansar pledged their unwavering allegiance to fight for Islam as long as they lived.
They did.
But
Yes.
in response to their pledge,
Yes.
the Prophet prayed for them to focus on the hereafter.
Yes.
It's like a balancing act, right?
It is.
Living a good life here and now,
Yeah.
but also keeping your eyes on the eternal prize.
That's a great way to put it.
Now, Book 58 also shares a really moving story
It does.
about the Ansar's selflessness,
Okay.
which directly led to a verse in the Quran.
It did.
Tell me more.
Okay, picture this.
Okay.
An Ansari couple has very little food,
Okay.
but a guest of the Prophet arrives.
Okay.
What do?
What do?
They give their food to the guest, even though it means going hungry themselves.
So their selfless act actually inspired a verse in the Quran.
It did. This act of pure generosity,
Wow.
described in Hadith 142,
Okay.
was so profound that it led to Allah revealing verse 59.9,
Okay.
which praises those who prioritize the needs of others even when they themselves are in need.
That's just, wow.
It's a powerful story.
It is.
Right.
It really underscores the idea that true generosity comes from a heart filled with compassion
Yeah.
and faith in Allah.
Yes.
I feel like we're just scratching the surface here.
I know.
There's so much to unpack.
There's so much.
But I know we have to move on to part 2 soon.
Okay.
But before we do, can you give us a little preview of what's coming next?
Sure. In part 2, we'll delve into stories of individual Ansaar, like Sa'd bin Mu'adh,
Okay.
whose piety was so profound that his death shook the very throne of Allah.
Oh, wow.
We'll also explore some mysterious events like the strange light
Okay.
that accompanied the Prophet and his companions on a dark night. Plus, we'll hear about some amazing women of the Ansaar
Okay.
and how pre-Islamic customs evolved with the advent of Islam.
Sounds like we've got a lot to look forward to.
We do.
Don't go anywhere, listeners,
Stay tuned.
because part 2 of our deep dive into Book 58 is coming up right after this.
See you then. Welcome back to the Echoes of Ihsan podcast. We're continuing our deep dive into Sahih Bukhari, Book 58, exploring the lives and legacy of the Ansaar.
So last time we set the scene, Medina, before the Prophet's arrival, the incredible generosity of the Ansaar, the special bond they shared with the Prophet,
Right.
it was like witnessing the birth of a community
Yes.
forged in sacrifice and faith.
Absolutely.
So,
Now we're going to zoom in a bit,
okay.
get to know some of these individuals who made the Ansaar so special.
Okay.
Because Book 58 doesn't just celebrate them as a group.
Right.
It introduces us to remarkable individuals, like, for example,
Yeah.
Sa'd bin Mu'adh.
Good.
He was a prominent leader among the Ansaar, and get this, his piety was so profound that when he died, the throne of Allah shook.
Oh, hold on.
It's described in Hadiths 146 and 147.
The throne of Allah shook.
Yes,
That's a pretty intense reaction.
it is.
What made Sa'd bin Mu'adh such an exceptional figure?
Well, he was known for his wisdom, his justice, his unwavering commitment to Islam.
Okay.
Hadith 148 gives us a glimpse into his character.
Okay.
The Prophet sought Sa'd's judgment in a really sensitive matter.
Okay.
It involved the fate of the Bani Qurayza tribe,
Okay.
who had betrayed the Muslims during a crucial battle.
Right.
Imagine being in that position,
Yeah.
having to decide the fate of an entire tribe.
Right.
Sa'd's verdict was firm but fair,
Okay.
reflecting the gravity of the situation, and the Prophet acknowledged his judgment,
Okay.
saying it aligned with the judgment of Allah.
So Sa'd bin Mu'adh was basically the go-to guy for tough decisions.
Yes.
Like a wise judge upholding Islamic principles even in the most challenging situation.
Absolutely. You know, this book is so fascinating because it weaves together these personal stories with pivotal moments in early Islamic history. We're
Right.
not just reading dry facts.
Right.
We're experiencing these events through the eyes of those who lived them.
Okay. I'm ready for another story. What else you got?
How about a bit of mystery?
Okay.
Hadith 149 describes this intriguing event.
Okay.
Two men are walking with the Prophet on a dark night.
Uh-huh.
Suddenly, a light appears before them,
Okay.
illuminating their path.
Okay.
But here's the really strange part.
Okay.
As they separate, the light splits and accompanies each of them.
Hold on, the light split.
Yes,
Okay. That's officially weird.
it is a strange event.
Do the hadiths offer any explanation for this?
Well, the Hadith simply narrates the event, leaving us to ponder its significance.
Okay.
Maybe it's a reminder of Allah's constant presence and protection,
Mm-hmm.
or perhaps it's a symbol of the blessings bestowed upon those who accompany the Prophet.
Right.
It's open to interpretation,
Okay.
which makes it all the more intriguing.
So maybe we'll never know the true meaning of the mysterious splitting light.
Right.
But hey, that's part of what makes these stories so captivating, right?
Yes.
They spark our curiosity and make us think.
Exactly. Now, shifting gears a bit,
Okay.
let's talk about the importance of preserving the Quran.
Okay.
In Hadith 150, there's mention of some notable figures,
Yeah.
including Rab bin Jabal,
Okay.
who were known for their mastery of Quranic recitation.
Right.
The Prophet actually recommended learning the recitation from these individuals,
Okay.
highlighting their expertise and the importance of getting it right, the pronunciation, the intonation, everything.
So it wasn't just about reading the words, but about understanding their meaning
Exactly.
and conveying that through your recitation.
Precisely. It underscored the Quran's status as a divine revelation,
Right.
a sacred text that demanded the utmost respect.
Yeah.
It's like the difference between simply reading sheet music and performing a beautiful symphony.
You're making me want to go back and listen to some beautiful Quranic recitation.
You should.
But, we've been talking a lot about the men
Yes.
who shaped early Islamic history.
Right.
What about the women?
Great point. Book 58 definitely doesn't forget the women. Khadija, the Prophet's first wife,
Right?
is mentioned with incredible reverence in several hadiths.
Okay.
Hadiths 162 through 167.
Yeah.
They all talk about her exceptional character,
Mm-hmm.
her unwavering support for the Prophet,
Okay.
the deep love and respect he held for her even after her death.
Okay, remind our listener why Khadija is such a key figure.
She was the first person to believe in the Prophet's message.
Right.
Imagine being in his position,
Yeah.
receiving this monumental revelation, and everyone around you thinks you're crazy.
Yeah.
Khadija, she believed in him.
Yeah.
She offered him comfort and encouragement during those initial years when he faced ridicule and rejection. And not only that, she was a successful businesswoman in her own right.
Right.
She used her wealth to support the nascent Muslim community.
So she was a believer, a confidant, and a financial backer.
Exactly.
Talk about a powerhouse.
And her piety was legendary.
Okay.
Hadith 168 actually recounts Gabriel,
Mm-hmm.
the angel, appearing before the Prophet and conveying Allah's greetings to Khadija.
Wow.
He gives her the good tidings of a palace in paradise,
Okay.
a testament to her exceptional faith and deeds.
It's a beautiful reminder that women played a crucial role
They did.
in the early development of Islam,
Yes.
offering their support, their resources,
Yes.
and their unwavering faith in the face of adversity.
Absolutely. Their stories deserve to be front and center just as much as the men's stories.
Absolutely. Now,
Yeah.
while we're on the topic of women,
Yes.
Book 58 also sheds light on some interesting aspects of pre-Islamic Arabian society
It does.
and how things changed with the advent of Islam.
That's right.
Okay. I'm all ears. What kind of changes are we talking about?
Well, some of the customs were pretty harsh.
Okay.
Take, for instance, Hadiths 169 and 170. They focus on this fascinating figure, Zayd bin Amir bin Nufail.
Okay.
He wasn't a Muslim himself, but even before the Prophet's mission, he stood out because he rejected idol worship.
Interesting.
He was a monotheist believing in one God.
Okay.
He condemned the practices of his time, like burying infant girls alive and worshiping idols.
Right.
He recognized the inherent value of human life and sought a pure form of worship.
So even in a society steeped in idolatry,
Right.
there were people searching for something more, something truer.
Yes. And his story kind of foreshadows the message of Islam, right?
Yeah.
The emphasis on the dignity of all human beings
Right.
and the rejection of those harmful practices.
Yeah. Now, here's another interesting pre-Islamic custom.
Okay.
Hadith 171 mentions that there was initially no wall around the Kaaba.
Oh, interesting.
People used to just pray around it.
Right.
It wasn't until Umar became the caliph that they built a wall,
Okay.
creating a designated space for prayer.
So it was like a shift towards a more structured and organized approach to worship. Yes, and it reflects the evolving nature of the Muslim community as it grew from a small group of believers to a larger and more established society.
Right.
Certain practices had to adapt.
Right.
The construction of the wall wasn't meant to restrict access to the Kaaba,
Right.
but rather to create a sense of order and reverence.
Okay.
It's like creating a special space, a sanctuary,
Yeah.
where you can focus on your connection with Allah.
I get that it's like having a dedicated prayer room in your house,
Exactly.
a place that's set apart from the hustle and bustle of daily life.
And speaking of evolving practices,
Yeah.
Hadith 172 touches upon the observance of Ashura,
Okay.
the 10th of Muharram.
Okay.
This day held significance even before Islam,
Right.
with the Quraysh tribe observing a fast on this day.
So it was like a pre-Islamic tradition
Exactly.
that was adopted by the early Muslims.
And the Prophet initially continued this practice.
Mm.
But then, when the fasting of Ramadan was made obligatory,
Right.
fasting on Ashura became optional.
It shows how Islamic law can be flexible and adaptable.
It can.
It took into consideration existing customs
Right.
and gradually introduced changes
Yes.
while maintaining the core principles of the faith.
It's about finding that balance, respecting tradition, while also evolving to meet the needs of the community. Now remember,
Right.
those early days weren't all smooth sailing,
I can imagine.
Book 58 also touches upon some of the challenges
Yeah.
faced by the early Muslims, particularly those who migrated to Medina.
Oh, I can imagine leaving everything behind.
Yeah.
Starting a new life, it must have been incredibly difficult.
It was. And on top of those practical challenges, they also had to deal with misconceptions and negative perceptions about Islam.
Oh, I bet.
Hadiths 173 and 175 describe some of these issues. For example, some people consider performing Umrah during the months of Hajj to be taboo,
Okay.
while others held superstitious beliefs about the month of Muharram.
So even within their own community, they had to educate and clarify certain practices.
Absolutely. And the Prophet played a key role in this.
Right.
His actions and explanations helped to dispel those misconceptions, demonstrating the rationality and logic behind Islamic teachings.
It's a good reminder that even within a community of believers, misunderstandings can arise.
Yes, they can.
Clear communication and a willingness to educate are essential.
They are, but let's talk about some of those who were outside the Muslim community.
Okay.
Were there any stories of, converts
Yeah.
who found their way to Islam despite all the challenges?
Yeah.
Definitely, Hadith 176 shares a truly remarkable story
Okay.
about a black slave woman
Okay.
who embraced Islam. It's a powerful testament to the transformative power of faith
Wow.
and the impact it can have on individuals from all walks of life.
Okay. I'm intrigued. What's her story?
Well, remember, slavery was a harsh reality in those times.
Right.
She was falsely accused of theft
Oh, wow.
and subjected to a humiliating and degrading search. But in that moment of extreme distress, Allah intervened,
Okay.
proving her innocence in a miraculous way. It's almost like her faith, her belief in Allah protected her in her most vulnerable moment.
That's really powerful.
Yeah.
It shows how Islam, from its very beginnings,
Yes.
sought to uplift the oppressed
Yes.
and establish justice for all.
That's a great point.
Her story also highlights the courage it took to embrace Islam,
It does.
especially for someone in her position.
Yes.
She boldly proclaimed her faith,
Yes, she did.
even though it could have led to further persecution.
That's right.
It's an inspiration to us all,
It is.
reminding us to stand up for what we believe in,
Yes.
even when it's difficult.
So we've seen the compassionate side of early Islam.
We have.
Its commitment to justice and equality. But Book 58 also doesn't shy away from exposing the darker side of pre-Islamic Arabian society, right?
You're right. Hadiths 177 through 183 and then 187 through 189
Okay.
offer glimpses into various practices that were prevalent at the time.
Some of these were considered normal, but were actually quite harmful or unjust.
Like, give us some examples.
Well, they mention things like wailing loudly at funerals,
Okay.
believing that the stars caused rain,
Okay.
engaging in certain types of unfair trade,
Okay.
and even believing in soothsayers and fortune tellers.
Right.
These were all part of the fabric of their society.
And Islam came to challenge those norms,
Shit.
offering alternative ways of thinking and behaving
Right?
that promoted compassion, justice, and a deeper understanding of the world. It's like watching a society emerge from a period of darkness,
It is.
guided by these new principles.
Exactly. It was a gradual process, but the impact was profound. Okay, so we've talked about the challenges, the misconceptions, the transformation of society.
Right.
But we also know that the early Muslims faced some pretty intense persecution for their beliefs, right?
Yeah, I bet it was like a constant uphill battle.
It was Hadith 190 recounts a heart-wrenching incident
Okay.
involving the Prophet's uncle Abu Talib. He was a powerful figure who loved and protected the Prophet,
Right.
but he was also deeply attached to the beliefs of his ancestors.
Right.
Despite the Prophet's efforts, he refused to renounce his old ways
Wow.
and embrace Islam.
It must have been heartbreaking for the Prophet to witness that.
It must have been.
To see someone he loved so dearly clinging to beliefs that he knew were wrong.
Right.
It speaks to the immense pressure and opposition they faced,
It does.
even from within their own families.
And it also highlights the limits of human influence.
Right.
We can try our best to guide and advise those we love,
Yeah.
but ultimately their choices are their own.
It's a reminder that faith is a personal journey,
It is.
and we can't force anyone to believe. Now, were there any other instances where the Prophet faced challenges to his message?
There were.
Like demands for proof or miracles?
Yes. Hadith 191 describes one such encounter.
Okay.
The Prophet is confronted with skepticism
Okay.
and demands for proof. His response is fascinating.
Okay.
He remains calm and patient, reminding the people of the trials faced by previous prophets
Right.
and affirming his unwavering faith in Allah's plan. It's a reminder that true faith isn't shaken by doubts or challenges,
Right.
but is actually strengthened by them.
It's about trusting in Allah's wisdom even when we don't understand the bigger picture.
Exactly. And that unwavering trust is beautifully illustrated in Hadith 192.
Okay.
Imagine this. The Prophet is prostrating in prayer,
Okay.
completely absorbed in his connection with Allah.
Okay.
And someone comes along and places the intestines of a camel on his back.
What? Okay, that's just messed up. Who would do such a thing?
Well, it was a time of great hostility, and the Prophet's enemies were looking for any opportunity to humiliate him.
Right.
But here's the amazing part.
Okay.
He doesn't flinch. He doesn't react. He continues his prayer completely unfazed.
That's incredible. Talk about resilience and unwavering devotion. I mean,
yeah.
I probably would have jumped up and, reacted in a way that wouldn't have been very prophetic.
It's a testament to the depth of his faith and his complete surrender to Allah, even in the face of such disrespect. These stories aren't just historical accounts.
Right.
They're lessons in faith, perseverance, and the transformative power of belief.
They remind us that the path to righteousness isn't always easy.
No, it's not.
It's often paved with challenges and obstacles.
That's right.
But those challenges are there to test our resolve,
Yes.
to deepen our connection with Allah,
Yes.
and to refine our character.
And speaking of challenges,
Yeah.
Book 58 also provides fascinating insights into the early days of Islam's spread, when the number of believers was still relatively small.
Right.
Hadiths 195 through 199 offer glimpses into those early days, highlighting the challenges and triumphs of spreading the message of Islam.
Okay.
We see the Prophet patiently explaining the basics of faith,
Yeah.
answering questions, dispelling misconceptions.
Right.
It's like witnessing the birth of a movement, the spark that would eventually ignite a global community.
And we see the courage of those early converts, right?
Yep.
The ones who faced ridicule and persecution for their newfound beliefs.
Their sacrifices, their unwavering faith, their dedication to spreading the message, it's all so inspiring. They were the pioneers,
Yeah.
laying the groundwork for what would become a global religion impacting billions of lives.
It's a reminder that each of us has the potential to make a difference in the world.
Yes, we do.
No matter how small our actions may seem,
That's right.
we can all be part of something bigger than ourselves,
Yes.
contributing to the betterment of humanity. Okay, I know we have to wrap up part 2 soon, but where are we headed next in our journey through Book 58?
In part 3, we'll explore one of the most pivotal moments in Islamic history, the Prophet's journey to Medina, also known as the Hijrah.
Okay.
We'll witness the conversion of key figures, delve into some fascinating encounters with other faith communities, and explore the miraculous event of the splitting of the moon.
Wow, splitting the moon. Now that's something I have to hear more about, so don't go anywhere, listeners. Part 3 of our deep dive into Book 58 is coming up right after this. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Echoes of Ihsan. We're deep into Sahih Bukhari Book 58, exploring the lives and legacy of the Ansaar, those incredible individuals who helped shape the early Muslim community.
And in the last part,
Yeah.
we witnessed those early struggles and the triumphs of the Muslims in Mecca,
Yeah.
their resilience in the face of persecution, and the remarkable stories of those who embraced Islam
Right.
despite the challenges.
We saw how they challenged the norms of their society,
Yeah.
how they stood up for justice and equality, and how their faith grew stronger through trials and tribulations.
Absolutely.
Now, I'm really curious to hear about this pivotal moment. You mentioned the Prophet's journey to Medina, also known as the Hijrah.
The Hijrah was a turning point in Islamic history. It wasn't just a physical relocation.
Right.
It was a leap of faith, a bold move that changed everything. Hadiths 200 and 201. They describe the events leading up to this momentous journey. Okay.
The persecution in Mecca had intensified, and the Prophet and his followers were facing increasing danger.
Right.
So they made this difficult decision to seek refuge in Medina,
Yeah.
where they had received pledges of support from the Ansar.
So it was like escaping a dangerous situation and starting a new life in a place where they were welcomed and protected.
Exactly. And this relocation allowed the Muslim community to flourish. In Medina, they were able to establish their first mosque-form alliances and develop a system of governance based on Islamic principles.
Wow.
The Hijrah marked the beginning of a new era.
It's amazing how a journey born out of necessity became the catalyst for such incredible growth and transformation.
And speaking of transformation,
Yeah.
Book 58 also recounts the conversion of some very influential figures,
Okay.
people who initially opposed Islam,
Yeah.
but then became some of its most ardent supporters.
Mm.
Omar ibn al-Khattab, who later became the second caliph. is a prime example.
I've heard about Omar. He was known for being, well, pretty intense, right? Before his conversion, he was a fierce opponent of Islam.
Okay.
But Hadiths 202 through 205 describe his incredible transformation. He goes from being a staunch enemy to one of Islam's most dedicated champions.
Wow.
His story is a testament to the power of faith to change hearts and minds, even those that seem most resistant.
It's a reminder that change is always possible, and sometimes the most unlikely individuals become the most influential voices.
Yeah.
Now, after the Hijra, how did the Muslims interact with other faith communities?
Well, Book 58 actually highlights some very positive interactions, particularly with the Christians in Ethiopia.
Okay.
Remember, a group of Muslims had sought refuge in Ethiopia earlier, fleeing persecution in Mecca.
Right, and they were welcomed by the Christian king, the Negus.
Exactly. Hadiths 213 through 215 describe these interactions, showing a level of respect and understanding that's really remarkable.
Okay.
We see the Prophet clarifying certain Islamic beliefs that differed from Christian doctrines, like the prohibition of depicting living beings in places of worship. But we also see examples of hospitality and kindness extended to the Muslim migrants.
So it wasn't about forcing their beliefs on others, but rather engaging in respectful dialogue and finding common ground.
Right. And these accounts challenge the narrative of constant conflict between Muslims and Christians.
Right.
They show that peaceful coexistence and mutual respect were possible even in those early days. And there's a particularly touching incident recounted in Hadith 216. The Negus, the Christian king who had sheltered the Muslims, passes away.
Okay.
And guess what? The Prophet leads the Muslims in a funeral prayer for him, acknowledging his piety and righteousness.
Wow, that's a beautiful gesture. It shows a level of empathy and respect that transcends religious boundaries.
It's a reminder that true piety and goodness can be found in people of all faiths, and we should always strive to recognize and appreciate those qualities, regardless of religious differences. Now, amidst these stories of interfaith encounters, Book 58 also addresses some challenging theological questions that arose during the Prophet's time. One particularly sensitive topic was the fate of those who died before the advent of Islam.
Right, like what happened to those who never had the chance to hear the Prophet's message? Were they automatically condemned?
Well, Hadiths 222 through 224 delve into this complex issue, focusing on the Prophet's uncle Abu Talib. Remember, he was the one who protected the Prophet in Mecca, but ultimately clung to his ancestral beliefs.
Right.
These hadiths emphasize the limitations of human intercession and the ultimate sovereignty of Allah in matters of salvation.
So even the Prophet's love and prayers for his uncle couldn't guarantee his salvation.
It's a difficult concept to grasp, but these hadiths highlight the idea that we can pray for our loved ones and hope for their well-being in the hereafter, but their ultimate fate rests with Allah.
It's a reminder that our understanding is limited, and Allah's plan encompasses a wisdom that we may not fully comprehend in this life. Now, before we get to the Prophet's final days, there's one more event I have to ask about the splitting of the moon. Is that story as amazing as it sounds?
It's truly one of the most remarkable miracles attributed to the Prophet Muhammad. Hadiths 208 through 211 describe this incredible event. Imagine the moon, a celestial body that has always been a source of wonder and awe, suddenly splits into two distinct halves. It was a sight that left the witnesses speechless.
I bet. It must have been absolutely mind-blowing.
It was a powerful testament to the divine nature of the Prophet's mission and the truth of his message. It was like a cosmic confirmation, a sign from the heavens that this man Muhammad was truly a messenger of Allah.
It's a story that has captivated the imagination of Muslims for centuries. It's a reminder that with Allah, all things are possible, even those that seem to defy the laws of nature.
Now, as the Muslim community continued to grow, the Prophet continued to guide and advise his followers. Hadiths 212 and 217 through 221 offer insights into these teachings, emphasizing the importance of speaking truth, the power seeking knowledge, remembering the hereafter, and striving for excellence in all aspects of life.
So it wasn't just about rituals and outward practices. It was about cultivating a deeper understanding of faith and living a life that reflected those principles.
Exactly. And these teachings highlight the importance of balance in our lives. We should strive for success in this world, but our ultimate focus should be on the hereafter. It's about fulfilling our worldly obligations while remaining mindful of our eternal destination.
It's like walking a tightrope, isn't it? Trying to achieve success in this life without losing sight of what truly matters.
And then, of course, there's the pivotal moment when the Prophet undertakes his final pilgrimage known as the farewell pilgrimage.
This is where he delivers his final sermon, right? The one that's considered a blueprint for living a righteous life.
Yes, Hadith 246 captures this momentous event. Imagine a vast gathering of Muslims, all eager to hear the Prophet's final message. He outlines the fundamental principles of Islam, emphasizes the importance of unity, brotherhood, and justice, and leaves them with a powerful message of hope and guidance.
It's a message that resonates with Muslims, even today, reminding us of the timeless values of peace, compassion, and respect for all humanity.
And as we approach the end of Book 58, the stories shift their focus to the Prophet's final days and the profound impact of his death on the Muslim community.
It must have been a time of immense grief and uncertainty.
It was Hadiths 247 through 258 offer poignant glimpses into those final moments. We witness the Prophet's unwavering faith, his concern for the well-being of his companions, and the deep sorrow that engulfed the Muslim community upon his passing.
It's a reminder that even the greatest of prophets are human beings subject to the same emotions and experiences as everyone else.
And despite their grief, the Prophet's companions also displayed remarkable resilience, determined to carry on his legacy. Hadiths 259 through 261 highlight the importance of continuing the Prophet's mission, upholding the principles of Islam, and spreading its message of peace and justice.
So even in death, the Prophet's life served as an inspiration, motivating his followers to strive for excellence and build a better world.
And the final hadiths of Book 58, Hadiths 262 through 270, offer a mix of practical guidance and spiritual reflections.
Okay.
They remind us of the importance of seeking knowledge, remembering the hereafter, striving for balance in our lives, and recognizing that our time on earth is finite, but the impact of our actions can be eternal.
It's a powerful message to end on, reminding us to live with purpose, intentionality, and a deep awareness of our ultimate destination. Book 58 is more than just a collection of stories. It's a testament to the transformative power of faith, the resilience of the human spirit, and the enduring legacy of Prophet Muhammad.
Absolutely.
It's been an incredible journey exploring these stories. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into Sahih Bukhari Book 58. The lessons we've learned inspire us to live lives of purpose, meaning, and excellence, just like the Ansaar, who helped shape the course of Islamic history.